My chapter title is DeathWatch. To look at me, you'd never know I'm obsessed with death. Not mine so much as those of close friends and my husband Lenny. Though I'm not looking forward to the extinction of my consciousness either. It's a paradox, isn't it? We all know we're going to die, but need to act as though we're going to live forever, just to get through life day to day. With one major exception. If you want to be a responsible human being, you must have a will. I've finally taken care of that pesky administrative task, as my sister the paralegal calls it. It only took 2 years of actively trying, which followed many more years of passive avoidance. I signed it in my lawyer's office a few weeks ago. At one point, while reviewing the text, which forces you to contemplate that truly unimaginable, impossible time when you are no longer alive, I turned to her. "I don't believe I'm going to die," I said. "Do you?" Somehow I find it comforting that even my estate lawyer, who is in the death business and paid to think about it all the time, cannot believe that she, too, someday will die. The next morning, I had breakfast with my former analyst. This was only our second meeting since she pronounced me cured 9 years ago. Okay, so she did not pronounce me cured, but she strongly suggested that I didn't need her anymore while showing her the door. Showing me the door. I got in touch because I thought she deserved to know I was happy. We picked up as if I'd just seen her last week. "I think about death all the time," I said. "Well, not all the time, but certainly every day." She glanced discreetly, or was it pointedly, at the string of skull-shaped meditation beads around my wrist. "Don't," she advised. "Death is a mystery, and it's best not to think about it too much. It's hard enough to figure out how to live." I spent 25 years in analysis. It took so long because for most of that time, I dodged discussing my actual feelings. Quite often, I genuinely didn't know what they were. I was too terrified of not having the right answer. At first, I saw her once a week. After a couple of years, she suggested that I come twice a week. Naturally, I thought that meant I was twice as crazy. But a few more years down the road, when she suggested I come 3 times a week, I realized it actually meant I was 3 times as strong. I wear the skull mala that caught her attention every day next to my wristwatch. The ensemble is my personal version of the mortality watch NPR covered this past New Year's Eve. It's like a stopwatch that runs backwards, starting from your estimated death date. You punch in your life expectancy from a standard actuarial table, and the watch starts counting down how many years, months, days, hours, minutes, and seconds you have left to live. Helpfully, it also displays the current time. Hoping it will inspire its wearers to make better choices and appreciate life more, the inventor calls it the happiness watch. NPR test drove the device with a youngish couple. At first, she found the device stress-provoking, while he, quote, had a surge of carpe diem. But by the end of the 24-hour experiment, the roles had reversed. She was fully experiencing and appreciating each moment. He was filled with anxiety. "Come on, we're wasting time here." I can relate. Each time I press the reheat button on the microwave, I wonder whether warmer coffee was worth it. Did I just fritter away 30 seconds of my life? What if I died tonight? When I was growing up in the late 1960s, World War II seemed very far away. Now that I've been on this planet for going on 6 decades, I have a better appreciation of how short a quarter century is. Our worldviews and decisions made by political leaders today are shaped by things we lived through decades ago, even by events that happened before we were born. Now World War II seems alarmingly recent. I used to breeze past dates when reading, but now I stop to figure out how old someone was when they died, or to relate a historical event to my grandparents' or grandparents' lives. Before, I didn't even know what year my grandparents were born. Then my mother, father, and brother all died within 36 months of each other. Their deaths roiled my universe, and I still haven't fully recovered. I'm not the only one who's obsessed with death. Back when I was a propagandist for a major bank, I churned out company news on the employee website. I detected a morbid fascination among my readers. The best read items, the ones that got the most comments, were bad news stories involving disaster or death. Obituaries of former CEOs, managers on a business trip killed in a plane crash, news from the Tokyo office following the Fukushima disaster. No doubt some of that fascination is rooted in "there, but for the grace of God, go I." We all know our ultimate end. It's just the precise time of our death we don't know. That is, except for those who've invested in the happiness watch. The rest of us would prefer not to dwell on it. On the rare, slow day at work, when I think of someone I hadn't seen in many years, whatever happened to so-and-so? I Google them. Big mistake. When I looked up my old boyfriend, Carl, I found his son's obituary. Jonah was 12 when his dad and I were an item. I remember the immense pleasure he took in the film titled Jonah, who will be 25 in the year 2000, since he was born in 1975. He made it to 2000, but died 9 years later, a victim of drugs and motorcycles. Then there was Bea Hawley in my sophomore poetry class. She was much older than the rest of us and had published a couple of books of poems. One was written from the point of view of a cleaning lady who feels a certain kinship with Lizzie Borden. Using just a few words and sensuous imagery, Bea could convey an entire scene drenched with meaning. I idolized her and asked why she was bothering to get a degree. "So I don't have to work as a cleaning lady anymore," she replied. When I Googled her a few years ago, I discovered she was neither a cleaning lady nor a poet. Now Beatrice Hawley is the name of an annual poetry award her publisher established in her honor. Bea died of lung cancer at the age of 41 in 1985, just a decade after we'd studied together. She'd been dead a long time already by the time I looked her up. I don't have to Google Frank and Carol. Everyone around here knows the hour of their passing. They died Sunday night, killed by their own house in a huge explosion that rattled windows across the river and could be heard 2 miles away. Neighbors ran out to help, but surrounding trees had already ignited. They couldn't even get close. Sirens summoned nearby volunteer fire departments. Crews filled tankers with river water on the New York side, crossed the bridge to PA, and back down the narrow road to reach the scene. My friend Sylvia walked out to the middle of the bridge. The rest of the way was blocked by first responders. She was joined by others wearing jackets over their night clothes. The only light came from the inferno a half-mile downriver. Townspeople peered into each other's faces to see who they were. It was a surreal scene. The next day, Monday, everyone in town was walking around like zombies, sharing stories of when they last saw Frank and Carol. For many, it was just a day or two before their death. People are still in shock and can't believe these two pillars of the community. They owned the Calhoun flea market for 3 decades. Are gone, poof, suddenly vanished. By Tuesday, store-bought bouquets had begun to pile up at the rubble of their house, cordoned off by fire investigators. Vases of fresh-picked sunflowers, roses, and peonies appeared in front of their store. At least they died together, we tell each other, and the coroner said they went quickly. At least they were spared years of illness and decline. I wonder if Carol and Frank tried to savor each moment. Did they each have their own version of the happiness watch to remind them of time's winged chariot hurrying near? Given the knowledge of inevitable death, how best to live life? Do even poets know the answer?